Fox Sports.
We are Black Hawks. We are St. Louis.
The Redbirds will try to even up their series with the Giants tonight. We're at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. San Francisco and St. Louis in the fourth game of their four-game series. And along with Rick Horton, I'm Dan McLaughlin. We're going to see a Major League debut tonight.
Always fun to watch a Major League debut. Lance Lynn was a 13-game winner last year in AAA. 5 wins so far this year. He's from Indiana, big, tall right-hander. Looking forward to watching him pitch.
The Ole Miss product now wearing a Major League uniform, making his debut tonight. We'll take a look at the other side, Jonathan Sanchez, the lefty, when we come back. Lefty here tonight, Jonathan Sanchez. The National League only hitting .204 against him. We saw him earlier this year, and that was back on April 8th. He went 5 innings in that start, gave up 4 hits, and he struck out 7, although he did take a no decision in that game. The Giants eventually won that in 12 innings. So Sanchez gets the start tonight. Lance Lynn, Major League debut for the Redbirds. Edging closer to our first pitch, more coming up. in the broadcast. Yesterday, fans submitted questions on Fox Sports Midwest Facebook page. Now Rick and Jim will answer 2 of those questions. We'll get both of their thoughts on the third. First question to Rick comes from Richard. Can Kyle Loesch have a whole year of this excellence?
It's hard to compete at the same level that Loesch has been at so far. 7-2 with a microscopic ERA. I think the Cardinals would be happy, and so would I, if he wins 16 to 18 games. I still think Chris Carpenter is the key to this Cardinals rotation.
Let's go to Jim. Rick Anderson writes in, do you think the Cardinals are giving Albert some playing time at third base in an attempt to increase his trade value?
I don't think the Cardinals have any interest in trading Albert Pujols. They have interest in getting more offense into the lineup. They move Pujols to third. It opens up a spot for a guy like John Jay, who's hitting .374 as a starter. It's about offense, not about trading Albert Pujols.
Final question to both of you. Jeremiah writes in, what are the Cardinals' options to shore up the defense and bullpen? How about you, Rick?
Well, I'll start with the bullpen, Dan. The Cardinals have a nice two-headed monster out there in Sanchez and Salas. Really need to get more production from the left side, from Miller and Talent. Maybe Boggs comes up at the end, but the Cardinals are going to need to look at maybe getting a little bit more punch in the 8th and 9th innings.
In terms of defense, the Cardinals will get some help as they get healthier. Once David Freese returns, I think that'll stabilize things. Also, Nick Punto, who's injured right now, one of the better infielders they have defensively, that should help as well.
All right, guys, good job. We'll try this again very soon. To get involved, just head to facebook.com/Fox Sports Midwest and click the like button. Back with more Giants and Cardinals coming up tonight. The Cardinals were the defending champs, winning their 10th and most recent World Series in 2006. But the 2010 Giants had a lot of similarities to the 06 Cardinals you might have not noticed. Pat Paris has more.
Both the 2006 Cardinals and last year's Giants needed every game of the season just to make the playoffs. In their last game back in 2006, the Cardinals lost 5-3 to Milwaukee. But it didn't matter because the Astros lost as well. Last year, the Giants needed a 3-0 win over the Padres to clinch the West. Adam Wainwright was a rookie closer leading the Cardinals to a World Series title. Ryan Wilson was an established closer, but they both, fully bearded, polished off their opponents with strikeouts in both the NLCS.
Right free call! Breaking ball struck him out, and the Cardinals have won the pennant.
And the World Series.
Struck him out!
Yadier Molina was just 23 years old. Juan Uribe was an off-season afterthought. But both unlikely heroes came through with go-ahead home runs late in both of their NLCS final games. The Giants, led by Tim Lincecum and Matt Cain, posted a 2.47 ERA in the 2010 postseason. The Cardinals posted a 2.68 ERA in the 2006 postseason. They were the last two teams to go through the entire postseason with a team ERA below 3. David Eckstein and Edgar Renteria are two very different-looking shortstops. But on the big stage, the World Series brought out a similar winning performance. They're the only two NL shortstops to win World Series MVP. While the 2010 Giants and 2006 Cardinals both won in 5 games, the strongest similarity between the clubs can be found this season. Neither can wait to get back.
Tonight is brought to you by Smooth Bush Beer and Easy Drinking Bush Light. By Chevy, see your Mid-America Chevy dealers. By Southwest Airlines, new Rapid Rewards, unlimited reward seats and no blackout dates. By Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers, #1 in quality tires and expert auto service. And by Steak and Shake, life needs flavor. It's Farmers Market at the ballpark here at Busch Stadium. And you know there's some jitters and some nervousness right now inside the gut of Lance Lynn, who is making his Major League debut.
Very exciting to watch somebody pitch in Game 1. Yes, the crowd's bigger. The buzz is bigger. You're pitching against major leaguers. Of course, you saw him in spring training, but it's not the same. You know, all throughout the country, people are going to care about this game. They're going to know more about it than the AAA games he's been in. 5-3 in Memphis, Dan, a 13-game winner a year ago.
Let's take a look at the lineup that he will face tonight. The defending world champion Giants, brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Andres Torres, Miguel Tejada, and Freddie Sanchez. Then Huff, Scherholtz, Ross, Crawford, Whiteside, and Sanchez. Nice night for baseball so far. Let's hope the rain stays away. And speaking of a AAA pitcher, in many ways, we've got a lot of guys from AAA that are playing here at the big league level.
Tony Cruz getting the start at third base. Jay and Craig, the corner outfielders. And the really important spot, Lance Lynn gets to work with the veteran Gold Glover Yadier Molina.
Kyle McClellan was put on the disabled list along with Matt Holliday. So you have Lance Lynn making his Major League debut. Michael Clato has been added to the bullpen. Clato's a guy that is a fireballer, picked up in the deal. There he is for Brendan Ryan from Seattle. Always fun to see a Major League debut, as Rick just said, and Lance Lynn gets that call tonight.
And he comes out throwing fastballs, low 90s where the fastball is. And in fact, he's improved that a bit, Dan. You mentioned last night over the last year or so, he used to be more of a sinker guy. Now he's kind of rearing back and throwing at 91, 92. But changeup really a good pitch for him. As strong as he is, he doesn't have that outstanding stuff. But certainly a guy the Cardinals think can be a part of the rotation for years to come.
Now, he did make a start against the Giants AAA Fresno affiliate in 2010. Did not face any of the players currently on the Giants Major League roster. 3 balls and 1 strike. By the way, he's also pitching on 3 days rest. Last start was back on May 29th.
I have a feeling he is not counting the days.
I'm not too sure that he's all that worried about pitching on 3 days rest.
I don't think so. He's from Brownsburg, Indiana, hometown of Kent Bottenfield, former Cardinal starter.
3-2 is hit down the right field line, hooking and out of play. So Torres hit a grand slam in game 1 of this series. The velocity was there at the end of the year for Lance Lynn. They said his final 2 starts, averaging 94, 95 miles an hour, has not hit that spot as far as velocity yet this year. The 3-2 pitch in the air out to center. Colby Rasmus, plenty of room, makes the catch.
I always thought that a Major League debut for a starter was a lot less stressful than for a reliever, because a starting pitcher knows he's got some room to make some mistakes. As a reliever, in the case of Clato, he's going to come in whenever he comes in, and there'll be a lot of eyes on him, and maybe the game's close, maybe it's not, but you better be good quickly, because people are going to judge you based on 4 or 5 pitches.
1 out, and here is the second place hitter, Miguel Tejada. There's a strike. Tony La Russa was at a function that I emceed today here at the ballpark, and he talked about, and he said he wasn't sure about the lineup. He said, but I can tell you there's going to be a lot of young faces in this lineup. And one of the things he did mention at that point in time was that Tony Cruz probably would be catching Lance Lynn. The reason being those two have had a history before, but Tony changed his mind from the time of lunchtime to now.
I actually thought he would be the catcher. When I saw Cruz's name in the lineup, my first thought was he is catching, but getting the start at third base, at least a familiar face on the infield with him.
First strikeout for Lance Lynn in the major leagues.
Tonight will be a lot of firsts for Lance Lynn. First strikeout, Miguel Tejada.
He strikes out a former MVP, and he'll throw that ball out. And now he gets a batting champ in Freddie Sanchez.
My first strikeout was a pitcher named Randy. That exciting.
Did he get to keep the ball?
I did not get to keep the ball. I didn't get to keep the first pitch I threw because it ended up in the stands and a fan got to keep it.
And a strike at the knees to Freddie Sanchez. When you look at the motion of Lance Lynn, pretty free and easy and smooth.
Yeah, a couple of pitches already. He's gotten a little bit too fast to the plate. His arm has dragged a little bit. So we'll watch for that. He needs to stay on top, stay back.
Welcome to the big league. So 1, 2, 3 inning. Yes. The tag by Pujols. The wide throw by the third baseman Tony Cruz. Pujols makes a nice play. The tag by Albert. Lance Lynn, scoreless inning. 33 and 24. And a look at the lineup presented by Southwest Airlines with Terrio, Jay, and Pujols. Then Craig, Molina, Rasmus, Green, Cruz, and Lance Lynn. Ryan Terrio swinging a hot bat. And the first pitch is hit out of play.
Jonathan Sanchez, hard-throwing left-hander, has a very good curveball and a good changeup. Piles up the strikeouts, and opponents not hitting him very well at all. He's in the top 4 in the National League in that department. Very stingy when it comes to hits.
Career best 15-game hitting streak on the line for Ryan Terrio. See if the Cardinals can't bounce back tonight. Very disappointing loss the way that last night all came about, 1 out away, and couldn't close out the win. And what drives you crazy is a walk that came around to score as Sanchez makes the play.
Those walks will kill you, especially late.
Brings in John Jay. And the defense, Ross, Torres, Shearholtz in the outfield. Tejada, Crawford, Sanchez, and Huff along the infield. And our battery here tonight, Jonathan Sanchez and Eli Whiteside. That's presented by Dobbs. John Jay hitting .342, 4 home runs, and he's driven in 14. Hit .397 in the month of May, second best in the National League.
So interesting to look at the Cardinal lineup today, Dan. If we would have been able to look into a crystal ball a year ago, and I told you, here's the lineup a year from now. We're going to have Ryan Terrio leading off. That'd be a surprise. If Jay, maybe that's okay. Pujols, no stretch there. Then it'd be Craig, Molina, Rasmus, Green, Cruz, and Lynn. Might be a little surprised by that.
I think it's surprising for folks that don't follow this team day in and day out. They might look at this lineup and say, how in the heck are the Cardinals 2.5 games in front with the loss of Wainwright, Holiday second stint on the DL. Berkman, his power numbers have been down here in the month of May. The 2-1 pitch. A late sink to that pitch.
Berkman's slide in May, though, has corresponded with John Jay's rise.
Yeah.
And that's the balance that a team looks for over a 162-game schedule.
The 2-2 pitch to John Jay. On the outside corner, is strikeout.
A couple of pitches ago, Jonathan Sanchez, there's the grip. It's a 2-seam fastball, thumb tucked underneath, staying on top. How about the torque that you get if you're throwing a fastball 90 plus at the big league level? There's a lot of stress on that arm, elbow, shoulder, back.
Strike 2, Pujols. Albert is hitting .262. He's 4 for 7, pair of strikeouts against this lefty. That's the other thing that comes to mind too. The low average. In the terms of Pujols, when you talk about him, as he fights it off into shallow right, drops in for a hit. 2-out base hit for Albert Pujols extends the inning to Alan Craig.
Albert jammed a bit, but a good result.
Calling the balls and strikes, our crew chief, Tim Welke. Andy Fletcher at first, Mike DeMuro at second, and Jim Reynolds is at third. This series, Craig 5 for 11. That big home run last night against Tim Lincecum at the time put the Cardinals on top 5-4.
First game where Craig was able to homer without the Cardinals winning. Been undefeated in games where he had gone deep, and what a home run that was. That was just a great moment at the ballpark. Things didn't turn out well later on, but that moment was spectacular. Tim Lincecum, the victim.
And the frustrating part for Tim Lincecum, he has to sit and wait until that next start after the Giants had given him a lead late in the game. On the inside corner, 0-2. We talked about it last night. The core of this Giants rotation, 28 and under. They've got 4 pitchers 28 and under.
And for anybody that might have been concerned about Lincecum being too kind of loosey-goosey, they saw a guy that really cared about results last night. He showed some emotion. Wasn't happy with the way he was pitching. Nothing wrong with that.
Alan Craig said after the game, and we saw it, we thought we read the lips of the umpires properly, but they asked him, "Can you see?" And Craig went back to the umpire and said, "Hey, that's not up to me."
Hey, I'm a young guy here.
Right.
I'm happy to be in the big leagues, and you're asking me.
And
that's
shadows
stress.
were a part of the thought process of stopping the game for 16 minutes after the bank of lights went out. Yeah, I could see, but I got to face Brian Wilson, too. I need all the help I can get.
Can you get him to slow it down a little bit so I can see it better? Reminds me playing in the Cape Cod League, one of the best summer baseball leagues in collegiate baseball. I played there one summer, and the fog would roll in towards the later innings of every game. And what they would do is they'd put 2 center fielders out in the middle of center field. They'd hit fungos to them. The umpires would. And the question was, could you see them? And if you could see them, they would continue. And if not, the game was over.
Right. The closer, first inning, already in the bullpen. Some closers, take for instance a guy like Jason Isringhausen. When he was here, you wouldn't see him walk out to the bullpen until about the 4th or 5th inning. And that might be early. I see you giggling over there. What are you laughing about?
I'm just thinking about my friend who'd be taking a nap right about now.
Lee Smith.
You got it.
Stolen base for Pujols. Saw Todd Worrell at the ballpark. Spoke with him today as Jim Hayes is trying to get him to be a part of the cat fight. And I'm not joking.
And he didn't do it?
I think they're talking about next homestand.
All right.
We'll hear from Jim in the 3rd inning.
Cardinals have had some great closers over the years. Some of them not necessarily in the best parts of their career, thinking about Dan Quisenberry, Tom Henke, Lee Smith, but Dennis Eckersley add to that list. Some great closers pitched here in St. Louis.
Nice play made by a fan down on the green seats. Two and two. The next 2, Alan Craig. Outfield is straight away. Craig pulls it fair. It's a 1-0 lead for St. Louis. Digging for 2. On his way and in there safely. 1-0 Cardinals. 2-out RBI double. Alan Craig.
And Dan, that's a double that does not produce a run if Albert doesn't steal second base. No way he can score on this ball as it bounces off the stands, the angled part of the stands in left field. Diving Tejada can't get it. Albert Pujols with the big steal, and Alan Craig with the big 2-out hit.
And it brings in Yadier Molina. Yadi hitting .320. And also Tony La Russa talking today about giving Molina the night off and getting ready for the weekend set with the Cubbies. How about Chicago? They'll come in possibly 8.5 or 9.5 games out, potentially, depending on what takes place tonight. Already.
Thought the Cubs had a chance to be better than they are. Didn't think they were going to be a first division team necessarily, but they have a way year after year, Dan, of just not pulling it together.
2 balls and no strikes. Cardinals have been to Wrigley. They took 2 of 3 already. And we'll see Chicago 3 different times at Busch Stadium this year. And all 3 times, those are weekend sets.
It's a team known for the swoon. They just started early.
Not in June. A little bit earlier than that.
Swoon doesn't really rhyme with May, does it?
No, it doesn't.
May dismay.
There you go. 2-0 pitch.
Just made that up. Can you tell?
No. I think you thought about that all afternoon. Just not that quick.
Got to think a little harder, don't I?
3-0. And on deck, it's Colby Rasmus. They turn loose Yachty on a 3-0 pitch. They do.
I like that. 3-0. You trust Yadier Molina. You know you're going to get a fastball. You're going to try to drive it the other way. You've got a left-hander on deck and Colby Rasmus. More often than not, I like it when a hitter has the green light 3-0. Certain situations, no. Pitchers, never. The guy that doesn't know the strike zone, I'd say no. Yachty has proven that he's a very good situational hitter. He understands this game. He's got a very high baseball IQ. And you have to know him personally to understand just how smart he is about this game.
A 3-2 pitch. Taken for a ball. So now, after getting the first two in this lineup, Sanchez, Rick here in the first, he's having to work.
He's picking a little bit in that at bat. And it's one thing that we've heard some folks say about Sanchez in the past. He doesn't go at hitters enough. Starts to pick a little bit too much.
So runners at first and second. Colby Rasmus will be the hitter. Outfield is straight away for Colby.
Sanchez struck out over 200 last year, 205 batters, but he walked 96 in 193 innings. That's too many.
At the knees and a strike. Colby checks in with an average of 276, 4 home runs and 20 RBIs. The 0-1 pitch. A ground ball to second. Sanchez force play at the bag. Alan Craig. RBI double to make it 1-0 after 1.
Not just your average superstar slugger. He does a lot of little things well, including playing defense. first inning. Errant throw up the first base side. Able to come back and make the tag. A lot of agility there. Then he steals the base in the bottom of the first. Gets a great jump off the lefty. Pop-up slide. And he's ready to score. And that's just what he does on this ground ball double off the bat of Alan Craig. Rounding third and scoring. Albert Pujols does a lot of things well.
Here is Aubrey Huff, 1-0 here in the second inning. And a strike by Lance Lynn. Rick had a chance to do a radio show yesterday with Bernie Miklasz here in town and Whitey Herzog. Had a little roundtable baseball discussion in the air out to center. Whitey, by the way, wanted to make sure to tell you at Hungo hello.
Awesome.
So I'm passing that along.
I appreciate that.
But Bernie was able to really get some good stuff out of him. And one of the things that they talked about is I was just the innocent bystander and listening. But I took mental notes. Whitey said in his mind, this is the best offensive group that Tony's had since 1996. Now we're talking 16 years, and I said even more so than 04.
04 would be a club that you'd have to put in that mix.
And he said absolutely. He said also this might be his best team yet. And his reasoning for that, he said, yeah, Pujols, who's a future Hall of Famer. And this is Whitey Herzog. That's out of play. But he also mentioned Holiday and Molina. He said those two guys have already built up a pretty solid start to a great resume to where they're future Hall of Famers too at some point.
And of course the manager is going to join Whitey Herzog in Cooperstown at some point as well. I think that's pretty high praise coming from Whitey Herzog about Molina. Of course Molina could potentially, if he stays healthy and he can catch for a long time, he could pick up 10, 12 or more Gold Gloves.
And that's what basically he was saying. And he thought that Holiday is just a tremendous hitter, which is obvious.
No doubt.
In the prime of his career. The 0-2 pitch.
I think Holiday's in a city where he's going to succeed too. A long-term contract. He has some stability. I think in terms of, I'm a St. Louisan now, I'm a Cardinal. He bounced around a little bit in his career despite being a superstar. I think that's going to play into it for him. He's going to put up some solid numbers for a long time.
High fly ball into deep right field. John Jay calmly puts it away. Fox Saturday Baseball this weekend. Cardinals and Cubs. And that'll begin at 3.
Last year I thought that John Jay was a good outfielder. Now I think he's a very good outfielder. Not going to call him great yet, but the routes that he's been taking the balls, even some of the tough ones that we've seen, Dan, the line drives hit right at him, just seems to be very calm. But on top of the angle, the depth perception issue that an outfielder has to deal with, I just think he's doing a great job, whether he's in left field or right field.
0-1 pitch to Cody Ross. Bernie Miklasz made a great point too. He said, I grew up in Baltimore. Earl Weaver was my guy, and then I got to St. Louis and I covered Whitey, Joe Torre, Tony La Russa. How about that trio?
I never did meet Earl Weaver, but known to be slightly cantankerous.
Slightly.
Trying to be nice. And one of his great deals was, I'm not going to sacrifice. He hated the sacrifice bunt. Had some great ball clubs in Baltimore.
Strikeout of Ross. Good start here for Lance Lynn with 2 scoreless innings. Never knew it. So Sanchez in his career against the Cardinals, albeit brief, he is 2-0, and his ERA is just over 2. And Rick, tell us what you saw out of Jonathan Sanchez there in that first inning.
Well, I think he's pretty much a guy that's going to be consistent. I don't really see anything off of what you'd expect to see from his pitches. Haven't seen the nasty breaking ball that much yet, but the base hit to Albert was a jam shot, ground ball down the left field line. You can't say that the Cardinals really got to him. So I don't think he's out of his motion. I don't think there's any issues. He's really just trying to pick a little bit. That's still an issue to me, is not enough strikes, not enough strike one. And 2-0 against the Cardinals in his career also includes that number at the bottom of that full screen we had where he'd gotten 6.23 run support in those games, and he's not going to get that the rest of this year, that's for sure, with the Giants offense as they are.
Can I go back to Whitey?
You certainly may.
So we get done with the radio show with Bernie, and I said to Whitey, I said, boy, Whitey, I said, you don't forget a thing. And he says, not bad for 79. I said, 79? He said, oh, yeah, I'm 79. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
And he also told you, as we guessed during the game where he came early in the homestand, that he actually manages while he is in the stands watching the game. He admitted that to you.
Right. We had a shot of him for people that didn't see it. He was in the green seats Memorial Day. He was sitting with his grandson. And both of us were just wondering, does he manage along with Tony La Russa and Bruce Bochy? And so I asked him, and he said, absolutely. He said, you bet I do. And then we started talking about bringing in your closer in the 8th. And he's in agreement with you that he does believe that, well, first of all, he doesn't like that guys are just coming in maybe for one at bat and getting a save. He said when he was watching Green is just out, he thought the same thing. You can buy tickets now for the Jack Buck Celebrity Night with the Stars and Tony La Russa dinner and sports auction. All proceeds help the Matthews Dickey Boys and Girls Club. And the number to call, 382-5952, extension 234 for tickets. That's Sunday, June 26th. And if people don't remember the other day, it was Brian Wilson that Bruce Bochy elected to keep in the bullpen, but 8th inning you had John Jay, Pujols, and I believe it was Craig coming up. Or no, excuse me, Berkman. So do you want to use your closer in that spot in the 8th and not use him in the 9th?
I just think the 2-inning save is the best answer. I think you can condition some closers, maybe not every one of them, to be a 2-inning guy or an inning in the 3rd, inning in 2/3. So if you need to have your guy get Albert Pujols out, you don't have to wait.
High fly ball out to left. Off the bat of Cruz for the out.
Whitey was so good at managing the bullpen, Dan. When Scott Terry got traded over from the Cincinnati Reds in the famous one-letter trade because he was traded for Pat Perry.
Right.
In fact, they just ripped off the P off of Pat Perry's jersey and put a T on it, and you could actually see the discoloration underneath. So it was the same number 37. After Scott had been in the bullpen with us for a couple of days, he said, how come you guys know every time the phone rings, you know that it's for you or not? I mean, how do you know that? And he said, just wait. You'll be around Whitey for about 3 or 4 weeks, and you'll know. He'll prepare you. He'll communicate, maybe personally, maybe through a coach, maybe through Dave Ricketts. But you will know exactly what he's thinking, and that will help you get ready. And he was just amazed. He couldn't believe how great it was to be a Cardinal and was very clear about expressing that.
2-0 the count on Lance Lynn. 1-0 St. Louis. If you're Bernie Miklasz, though, you're learning baseball still from those 3 guys. I mean, think about that. And we are, too, from Tony La Russa and the things that he brings to the table. Now, he gets away with other things that maybe a first-year manager wouldn't, but still.
But that's okay. He's earned the right. And one of the things that we've learned from Tony, and anybody following the Cardinals can say how important it is to win series. That's his mantra. Not only has he said that, preached it to his teams over the year, we all talk about that now. All Cardinal fans know you win series, you win pennants. And you don't have to sweep everybody, but you need to go 2 out of 3 every time. And that has become something that is a legacy of Tony La Russa here in St. Louis, among other things.
Yeah.
Still working on the pitcher bat name, but that's another topic.
I'm with you on that one. I'm still not convinced.
We got a long line. But you know what? That's what makes baseball great, Dan. It's not an exact science.
But, you know, if he puts that pitcher eighth, obviously that allows him, with being now the manager that's going to have over 5,000 games managed under his belt. You and I have got bupkis, so he gets away with that, you know.
And any rookie manager that might have tried that might have been laughed out of the game.
That's right.
But even if Tony does something out of the box, he has his reasons. Well, he might not agree with him, which is fine.
Shallow left out of play. One of those things, I'm sure for some fans, is tonight's lineup. Come to the ballpark and you're seeing, you know, Berkman not playing. You got Holiday, who's hurt. But a lot of guys that just a year ago were in the minor leagues, whether it be Jay or Craig, Green, Cruz, Lynn. On pitch.
That's a good guy for Kobe Rasmus to be hanging out with. Lance Berkman picking his brain a little bit. Mentorship going on in the bullpen, on the bench, in the clubhouse, on the team bus, charters, at dinner, breakfast for some. Always learning.
The 2-1 pitch. Pulled foul. Tony was asked by a fan today at the luncheon, who has surprised you as you see Sanchez has 43 pitches. And very calculated answer. He said, I don't like to say that someone surprises me, because then that sends the wrong message maybe to that player. But he said, guys we've been looking at that have given us a jolt. He said Terrio's been a very good player for us, and he also mentioned by name Descalso. And Descalso, who is not in the lineup tonight, really has given the Cardinals a nice backup at third base, especially defensively.
He's been very good defensively. Ryan Terrio's been very good offensively. Made his share of errors, but watching Ryan Theriot hit in spring training, Dan, I thought there were times where they were just knocking the bat out of his hands. Did not have a very strong spring training.
And that hitting streak, you see, at 16, best in the National League. First pitch to Jay, taken up and in. Jay struck out 3 times against Tim Lincecum last night. Not the first, and won't be the last. Always like to visit with a scout and get their take on what they see in this game, and they know better than anybody. They're around baseball 24/7. And they mentioned that they thought Lincecum was throwing more of a slider than they remember in the past. More of a, in years
shorter
past,
break.
Yeah, in years past, that big 12-6 curveball, changeup, fastball, but not necessarily like you're saying, that shorter break with a slider. Couple of hops to short, across the diamond, and on the bag. The argument now coming here from Tony La Russa. Huff somehow, some way, must have stayed on the bag, but the bench, watch their reaction. End of 2, it's 1-0. including a discount off the gate price in most seating areas. For details, visit Cardinals.com or call 345-9500. Want to remind you that on Sunday, still good seats available for the Cubs. That is an afternoon game, and there are $29 seats as a part of dynamic pricing, and that's this Sunday against Chicago. Tomorrow night, Jaime Garcia and Ryan Dempster. Dempster 4-4, Garcia 5-1, and coming off one of his toughest outings as a pro in Colorado on Saturday. 7, 8, and 9 for San Francisco, and a 1-0 lead for St. Louis. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin, and Jim Hayes with us. Well, Jim, we get a look at Jaime tomorrow. Lynn makes the start tonight, so Garcia's bumped.
Gets pushed back, and he says he can't wait to get back out there. You referenced his last start. Not a good one. 3 1/3. 11 earned runs for Jaime Garcia, a guy who had been putting together such an unbelievably good season. Says all he can do at this point is put it behind him, learn a couple lessons from it, and just get that confidence back, which he says he has. But Dave Duncan said something interesting. He said for a young guy who's had so much success, it's very difficult for Jaime. You're among the league leaders, major league leaders in ERA. Next thing, you start to feel like that's important, and you start pitching for earned run average as opposed to for wins. And he said he thinks Jaime might have gotten caught up in that a little bit, part of the maturation process. But he feels Jaime's good. He expects a good start.
I still had such a hard time watching that game, and still from my vantage point, felt like he was left in too long. Would have preferred for him to come out. I'm okay with taxing the bullpen a little bit to save a guy from 11 earned runs, but that's a little old school way to look at it. And Garcia, when he learns those things, Jim, it's it is part of what the game is. You're relearning it. I mean, it's not like he's never had a bad outing before, but you kind of go through over and over again that feeling of, boy, I think I'm on top of the world. Then the humbler gets you, and maybe that's what Dave Duncan's talking about. The humbler certainly will find you.
Nice changeup that time by Lance Lynn, and that's back-to-back strikeouts, 3 already here tonight.
The changeup we talked about, perfectly sold. Had a really good arm action with it. You see the grip, takes off the speed, 8 to 10 miles an hour off. Perfect location, great result.
Rick, we talk about the Cardinals relying on video so much. Well, now tables have been turned here with Lance Lynn. You wonder how much San Francisco relies on that video.
Oh, everybody does. They have video people galore in this game, and I think it's been a really different kind of way to approach advanced scouting. Instead of having multiple scouts travel to each city, and we call them advanced scouts. And the advanced scout for the Cardinals would be wherever San Francisco is playing for about a week, and there'd be a time where you'd send a couple of guys. They'd watch him take batting practice, who's hurt, who looks lethargic, who looks strong, and they would file a report. Now you just have the video guys handle that.
Out to center, stays in the ballpark, and there's 2 away.
With Lynn, such a big guy, but not a ton of strikeouts. Talking to some of the folks around the Cardinals, they say the book on him basically is he can get the strikeouts if his changeup is good. Then his fastball becomes that much better. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a good way to say it. And that strikeout of Crawford may be indicative of that. I mean, that's seemed to be a strikeout pitch for him. He doesn't have the good fastball, but not the 95 or the one with great sink. It's kind of a little bit of both. It's hard enough with a little bit of movement. There was a time where I think there were people who thought he was short in terms of his fastball. Not enough velocity. But 93, Dan, you mentioned it, how he picked up last fall. A little bit of a remnant of that.
Yeah. 0-1 pitch here to Sanchez, and he hits it off the end of the bat in a lazy fly ball. So first time through the lineup, very nicely done by Lance Lynn. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by the Stadium Sports Bar and Grill at Lumiere Casino. It's now open, a sports bar for everyone. And by Steel. Are you ready for a steal? So far, Lance Lynn, impressive. First time through the lineup.
Oh, he's been outstanding. Good command of his fastball. We saw the good changeup. Really not a ball hit hard yet.
Ryan Theriot there in the front, Lynn in the back, and here is Pujols. Albert Pujols, his first time up, singled and scored after a key stolen base, Rick, in the first inning.
Really set the tone for that first inning. Alan Craig delivered ground ball double. Game's only run, but Albert being very aggressive. Imagine that.
One pitch to Pujols. Ground ball to short. Taken there by Crawford. And there is one away. If you have a question, just head to carsoup.com/Cardinals and send us your email to booth questions. But we have all the answers here with Jim Hayes. I enjoyed your interview last night with Brian Wilson, and
my favorite one all year so far.
It was.
And there have been a lot of good ones.
They've been exceptional.
Tied for first.
Can I be honest with you guys? I feared the beard. I feared it a little bit.
Brian Wilson keeping score during the game.
That guy is intense, and you could look in his eyes and see there's a lot of stuff going on there. We talked to him after the game, wanted to ask about what was going through his mind when the lights went out.
And
a little scary.
What did he say?
He didn't know. And then because I had heard that they asked Alan Craig, can you hit? And Craig said, as you guys talked about earlier, it's not up to me. So I asked him if the umpire crew had asked him if he could pitch. They didn't ask me anything. Then I asked him what he did during the little break, and he talked about a restroom stop. I'm trying to work on some pitches mentally that he couldn't throw anyway, and then we were done. I feared the beard.
And then he said, I came out and I had a plan and did exactly the opposite.
The opposite, right.
It was only through one
pitch.
And
if you notice my body language, I gave him a wide berth.
Very cordial.
Very cordial. Good guy.
And Dan, how about for those of you scoring at home? How about for those of you scoring in the Giants bullpen?
Have you ever seen that?
No.
I've never seen a player
with such good penmanship
or keep score like that. Now, back at the Old Busch Stadium, you would see the next day starter. So, for instance, you might see Jaime Garcia located right behind home plate and taking notes.
Absolutely. And some of those notes would be actual hitting charts,
right?
And sometimes they would be velocity. You'd have the gun. There was a time where the starting pitcher would actually have a gun. My job was to check the velocity of all the pitches in that game, both their pitchers and ours.
I wonder if Molina, guys in the bullpen, might keep score just as a way to stay locked in on what's going on, because it certainly does help you concentrate.
Let's see if Jason Mott's keeping score. Now that's how he gets locked in. Yeah, I think locking in too early. I mean, I'm a little surprised, frankly, that Brian Wilson does it, but you know what? Hey, it works for him. I think there's a time where you kind of generally know what's going on, kind of the soft focus. Then the game starts to get a little closer to your territory and you start locking in. But obviously, Brian Wilson locked in already.
One out and a runner at first. You know, Bart Scott, in his post-game celebration of a playoff win, the linebacker, Sal Paolantonio said, you know, we'll see you next week. Can't wait. Okay, screamed it. Everybody saw it across the country. You last night at Brian Wilson, you were a little shook up. And
no, as I said, I feared the beard.
And you said, yeah, you were shook up. You said, thanks for doing this. And he went right into the microphone. "You're welcome," and then walked right off. It was very nice, very cordial.
Tremendous.
It's great. He's great. I had never interviewed him before. And I was also told, "You're okay if it's not live. You're okay." Someone from the San Francisco side said so. Let's live the tape. We're good.
Here's a 2-0 pitch.
Something tells me he spent most of the day today talking to all his friends about how he got to talk to you and giving his version of that conversation. It's a two-way street, you know.
You might be onto something.
I did think it was your best of the year, though. Have you had a favorite interview over the years?
A couple nights ago with Cody Ross was memorable.
Come on.
Oh, my favorite of all time was when Jim Edmonds told me next time, who was the player, the Japanese player that
So Taguchi?
Next time So does something, I can communicate with him. I'll help you do the post-game interview with So. And I said, great. So I stored that away. And then So did something. Then I go, So, I'm going to stay right here. We're going to do you on the post-game interview. And he looked confused and scared. And I said, Edmonds is going to help. And here comes Jim from center field. I go, Jim, we're going to do that thing with So, right? And he ran right by me. And in my earpiece, they said, all right, 3, 2, 1. And you talk about me being a little out of it or a little scared. That was the one that I remember the most.
But you got through it.
Got through it. A lot of bowing.
Professional.
A lot of bowing. A lot of uncomfortable looks. And a few pauses. Some silence.
From you or him?
Yes.
Now it's Colby Rasmus with runners at first and second and one out. Rasmus first time up, grounded out, fielder's choice, pulls it foul.
I apologize for forgetting So's name. Very important part of Cardinal baseball for many years.
He's fun to watch.
Great guy.
Gentleman. Very good defensive player. Star in Japan. Came over here late in his career.
Always happy to be at the ballpark.
He taught me how to count to 10 in Japanese, and I can't remember it all. But he tried.
The effort was put forth. I'll never forget his home run. 2 of them that he had that were memorable. One postseason play against the Mets, 06, and the Kyle Farnsworth home run. Guy's throwing 99, and he turned on that and knocked it out of the ballpark at Wrigley.
And the play he made in the Ivy at Wrigley. He
Yep.
made a diving play, not a diving, but a play up against the wall in Wrigley, which was outstanding. He was kind of a nervous defender, but a good defender. A lot of movement with his feet and his hands, and you thought maybe he was uncomfortable, but he got the job done.
It's a lot like when I'm interviewing someone. There's a lot of movement. Don't look that all that comfortable, but I get it done. You just described me.
I did, didn't I?
1 ball and 2 strikes.
You don't want me to describe you.
Colby rips it out to deep right center field. This could be trouble. That ball gets down all the way to the wall. 2 runs will score. Rasmus on his way to third. It's a triple.
We talked about Sanchez picking at home plate and what happens when you walk batters in the big leagues. You end up giving up runs. Colby Rasmus drives this ball into right center field, and between second and shortstop really turns it on. Love the triple.
So Rasmus safe at third, safe and secure. New York Life. Infield drawn in for Tyler Green. Green grounded out to third, his first time up. Chance to add to this 3-0 lead. Jim Astoria has developed at the top of the lineup. Green is hitting 7th, but how about Ryan Theriot extends his hitting streak to 16 games, career best.
I said, when you're on a hot streak like this, Ryan, is there something different? And he said, if I'm being really honest with you, it's very simple. He says, when you're hitting well, you're getting pitches to hit, and you hit them. He said, when he's not going well, he said, it seems like 4 or 5 games in a row, I could go without seeing a pitch that I consider hittable. And when I get one, I foul it off. He said it's just that simple. Right now, he's in one of those grooves where he's seeing pitches that he feels he can hit.
I think that's a good way to describe hitting. You hear a lot of hitters talk about that. And some of that is how they see the ball. And if you're not seeing the ball well, it never looks as if there's a pitch you can handle.
I asked him, I said, some guys say the ball looks bigger, easier to see. He said, it's not that. For me, it's just all of a sudden there's pitches that I can hit.
There's a time, I guess, when you just get it down to the basics, and that's probably not a good place, not a bad place to be. Just make it simple. Put a good swing on the pitch that you can handle. Period.
And you talked about him in spring training, but the Cardinals brought Ryan Theriot in believing he's a shortstop that can make most of the plays and a guy who will be an upgrade offensively, and I think he's been there.
Outside and low, 2-2. Couple of pitches before that, we saw Rasmus flying down the line. This very close to being a strike.
And to get the upgrade, the Cardinals parted with Brendan Ryan. They traded to Seattle, and the pitcher that they got in that deal is now a St. Louis Cardinal, Michael Clato.
Tony La Russa indicating that they'd like to get him in there as quickly as possible. Found it interesting, too. Tony said they really want to see what he can bring to give them even more bullpen depth. And even if he has a great outing or is roughed up, you know, they're going to stick with him and let him get his feet wet here at this level.
John Mozeliak was on the pregame show, and he said the Lynn Clato thing, they're kind of part and parcel of the same way of thinking.
3-2 into third. And Tejada makes the play.
Clato is sort of the backup plan if things didn't go well for Lance, and they are going well right now, but also a guy who can come in at the end of the game and put in a couple of good innings.
Well, we should mention, too, that Clato at Springfield, he started out at A-ball this year, then was, and there he is on the right, he's a big guy, then was bumped up to Springfield Double-A, and he was in the rotation, but they envision him more than likely in his career, because he throws so hard, being a max effort guy coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, if you're a max effort guy, they need to start thinking about you as a reliever. The max effort guys as a starter don't last that long. Mitchell Boggs is a guy that we always thought was a max effort guy, and they took him from being a starter to a reliever. And really the issue with Mitchell was just being consistent in his delivery, and moving back to the rotation is an attempt to get him back on track. But guy has that kind of plus arm, maximum effort, delivery. Throw him out there in the 9th inning and just let him have at it.
So intentional walk, and it brings in Lynn. You can follow the Cardinals with MLB.com at Bat11 app for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Cardinals.com for details. Text at Bat to 31826. So 2 outs and runners at first and third. Outfield very shallow, big gap in left center field. Lynn pops it up. Tough sky right now, but Sanchez has a beat on it, makes the catch. Cardinals will strand a pair, but they pick up 2 as well. Rasmus with the RBI triple. Jim, we'll see you on the postgame. Jose Oquendo will be out there. For details and future player appearances, visit Cardinals.com/promotions. The Secret Weapon signing autographs tomorrow out in the Ford Plaza.
Very good instructor of defense, very good teammate, and not so bad a golfer either.
No, he's a very good golfer. We know that.
All I know is he always wins.
There's one guy that beats us all, though, whether we like it or not. Mike Shannon. But the experience of getting beaten by Mike Shannon is worth it.
He just counts his strokes differently, Dan. That's all.
There's Jim Jackson there on the left.
We've had the pleasure of playing some golf with Mike Shannon, and he still hits the ball pretty well. Jim Jackson on the left, the brains of the outfit. Mike always says he's always working those knobs and levers and gizmos.
Oh, that one. Did it catch the helmet or the bat? You could hear it.
I think it hit both.
Caught the helmet, so Tejada will be the first base runner tonight for San Francisco.
So in the book of Lance Lynn's big league career, first strikeout, Miguel Tejada. First guy you hit in the head, Miguel Tejada.
Tony, I think, is going to want an explanation here, too, because he heard probably the same thing that we did.
I think he hit both. Oh, it's definitely his helmet.
Yeah. So Tejada hit by the pitch, and it brings in Freddie Sanchez. One guy that has been very pleased with the call-ups, the advancement of these young players, the farm director of the Cardinals, that's John Vooch, who has been with the club for over 30 years. And I found this to be great, is that John Vooch and his staff, and there's been talk of maybe at times a disconnect between the major league staff and what's going on in the minor leagues. So John said, hey, let's get everybody together. This is a double play ball. Terria, though, can't quite field it cleanly. But to finish the story, John was saying, let's get everybody together, from Tony La Russa, Dave McKay, Oquendo, what we see out in the bullpen, and tell us what you want. What do you want the message to be for our coaches in the minor leagues to get to the players? So we're all on the same page, and he said that the major league staff was unbelievable coming together and making sure that that manual that is throughout the Cardinal system now is what they want to expect to see when these guys get to the big leagues.
And you're talking about systems. You're talking about how you do bunt plays, what a pitching philosophy would be, what a hitting philosophy is, and how you defend and how you do relays. All those things should be the Cardinal way. And if you're with the Giants, it's the Giants way. And it's not going to be that much different, but you want the vernacular to be the same. You want the bunt play names and numbers to be the same. So when Lance Lynn comes to the big leagues, you don't have to acclimate him to an entirely different way of playing the game of baseball. Again, it's not a macro difference, but even that micro difference should be, you shouldn't have a difference. It should be the Cardinal way. John Vooch, by the way, the perfect guy to do that job. Yep. He has not changed one bit in those 30 years.
2-0 pitch, hammered, deep center, going back. Rasmus, he'll look up, and it's gone. So the potential double play mishandled, extends the inning, and it's a 2-run homer for Huff. Again, it was a hard hit ball to short, but Ricky, you talk about this throughout the years. How many outs do you give? You know, last year the club gave up a few more outs than they would have liked. This year that's been the case. It extends this inning, and now brand new game at 3-2.
That's a decent location there. Aubrey Huff is just locked in right now. He went down to get it and hit it a ton to right center field, and you're exactly right, Dan. You just can't give an extra out to a major league team. You could almost see that coming. The minute the double play wasn't turned, just had a bad feeling about that at bat with Aubrey Huff, as locked in as he is.
Second home run in this series. This one, a 2-run shot There's a breaking ball in there for a strike.
Watching the mechanics of Lance Lynn, he's pretty much side saddles the pitching rubber, steps towards first, does a few things right over the rubber, but whatever you do, as long as you're not falling towards home plate, you're all right as a pitcher. You can do whatever you do to get yourself ready to pitch and throw the ball, little foot movement, picks his hands up, but all that is over the rubber. He's not off balance.
Good play by Cruz. Puff's home run at 400 feet even. Gets the Giants on the board. Merrimack Caverns night. All kids 15 and under receive a coupon good for one admission for a Merrimack Caverns cave tour and boat ride. May be hot outside, but always a cool 60 degrees inside the cave. Ryan Theriot leads it off. First pitch is popped up. Foul territory, and Sanchez makes the play. Freddie Sanchez is just an all-around good player, isn't he?
Very solid. Wouldn't say flashy, but he has good range. This is about communication right here. Make sure Aubrey Huff doesn't run him over.
You know, you think about the Pirates and you understand that there might be financial constraints, but Jack Wilson easily could still be their shortstop. This guy could still be at second base. McLeod still could be there even with McCutchen. I mean, there are players spread across the league, and you say, these are former Pirates, and they gave up on them.
And you throw the Garrett Jones and Tabata, and Alvarez, and now all of a sudden you've got a pretty good lineup. Pirates have found a closer.
Hanrahan has been very good. Correa, by the way, with 8 wins. 8 already.
They also had to give up on Matt Capps, who wasn't too bad. You know, that's the funny thing, Dan. In games we would go to Pittsburgh and we'd hear people talk about their closer there, and I think Cardinal fans sometimes don't have the opportunity to travel around the country and see that no matter where we are in the country, people aren't happy with their closer. Matt Capps used to get booed. They'd say, you know, yeah, I know he got more saves than anybody else in the National League at this given time, but he walks too many guys. I mean, it's really hard to love your closer. I'm betting, though, in San Francisco they love theirs.
You know, they have not been home all that much, so they are primed to make a run in the West. And I know a lot of their fan base was frustrated over the fact that, you know, the place is going crazy right now for Giants baseball. And yet Bruce Bochy and his team on the road an awful lot. Schedule makers, that's done well in advance of the World Series, so it's not like it's been done because they won it or didn't win it. Just the way it is. The 2-0 pitch. He went down to get that. The exit foul, 2-1.
And again, a 2-0 pitch from Sanchez. He had 3 walks. One of them was intentional in the 3rd inning. A walk in the 1st, a walk in the 2nd. And he's got, to me, his stuff's too good for him to be walking that many hitters. Very simple mechanics. From Mayagüez, Puerto Rico.
2-2. Pujols is singled and scored, and also grounded out to short.
Puerto Rico loves their baseball. Spent a great winter there in the early 90s and got to go to all the great baseball towns there. San Juan, the capital, where I played, but Mayagüez, and just loved everything about Puerto Rico. And they love their baseball. And they have their heroes. And Jonathan Sanchez is one of them.
Assuming the Molina family would be,
no doubt about
certainly in that group. Count of 3 balls and 2 strikes here on Albert Pujols. Outfield straightaway and deep. Pops it up. Sanchez going out and makes the play. Ross, Crawford, Whiteside coming up as we move to the 5th. All-Star Game is coming to Fox. The game's biggest stars will be on display from Arizona. Exclusively on Fox, July 12th, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. And it's only on Fox. We're in the 5th inning, and it's 3-2 St. Louis. Lance Lynn in his major league debut. And Rick, it seems like he has settled in, and he's just fine.
Even the home run he gave up, pretty good pitch to a hot hitter, and was not helped out by the Cardinals' inability to turn a double play.
That double play is turned. We're talking about a 3-0 lead. Instead, it's 3-2. One ball and 2 strikes. Cody Ross has struck out. That was back in the second inning. Got him. Backed up on him. It's a strikeout, number 4 for Lance Lynn.
Yeah, this is one of those not a very good pitch, very good result. Slider doesn't really break, just stays on the inside corner, just barely hits that corner. Shaking his head a little bit and almost read his mind saying, boy, I can't throw that pitch again.
Yeah. I was with Lance Lynn on the Caravan a couple of years ago, and we had a few of the major leaguers with us, also guys that had retired, and he was one of the guys on the bus that was asking a lot of questions to those former players and the current guys about the big leagues and what it's all about.
Yeah, you know, the former players and even the veteran players that are still playing the game, they love that. When a young guy wants to just ask about the game. And frankly, the guy that did that maybe as much as anybody when he was young was Albert Pujols. He asked a lot of questions. And I think he's still asking questions. When he meets Stan Musial or anybody beyond him, of course, they have a very unique connection. But when a young player wants to learn about the game and about how to play the game, you love it.
Careful over there. Craig is okay. Good hustle. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Brandon Crawford.
Good effort by Alan Craig. And I agree with you. Be careful.
It is amazing. We talk about it, but you go down to spring training and then you see. It's one thing to talk about it and hear about the guys being around, but then you see in uniform Lou Brock, Gibson, Shandy's. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's a strikeout, number 5 for Lance Lynn.
Well, I think when a young player has a attitude or the air about them that, you know, you all don't understand, this is a whole new thing and I've got something new to bring to the table, and you've got a guy that's been around the game like Red Schoendienst all these years, and, you know, hey, he's seen it. Seen guys come and go, although nobody's ever seen a closer keep scoring the bullpen, but that's a new one on even Red Schoendienst probably.
But really, it's a good way, though, probably not to get lost in a conversation out there and pay attention to what's happening.
There's Red, one of my favorites, one of all of our favorites. And what's wrong with getting lost in conversation in the bullpen? We need to talk about that.
John Jay makes the catch. We're midway through 5, and the Redbirds on top. Major League Baseball All-Star ballot and enter to win a trip to the All-Star game. Compliments of Scott's leading vote getter so far, Albert Pujols. Uh-oh.
Oop,
That's
0 for 1.
Yeah.
Hope I get another chance.
Oh, yeah. Scooped it up with ease.
Pretty
Now
excited
his
about that.
Cell phone will be ringing off the hook for the rest of the night.
And I am so glad that he brought his glove.
You challenged, let's just say, the 9 kids of our audience here at the ballpark that bring their gloves.
But can I make a disclaimer on that?
You've already made the statement.
But I want to have a caveat. Let me use that word.
All right, go ahead.
Caveat is if you're in the front row, bring a glove, a shield.
You're saving everybody and yourself.
You bring whatever you can. Bring a pitching screen. There he is on the phone. Dan McLaughlin's talking about you, Dad.
And wait a minute, Ricky just said some really not so nice things about your dad. Hold on here. Wait a minute. What?
Questioned your coolness. Wasn't that the word we used?
That you used.
I'm going to watch my pronouns now.
1 ball, 1 strike here on Allen Craig. 3-2 St. Louis.
It's a we thing, Dan. Come on.
No, I'm not. No. I can't do it.
Come on with me.
Here is Huff, and he makes the catch. Turn to our trivia question here tonight, brought to you by AT&T. Who was the last Cardinals pitcher to record a win in his Major League debut as a starter? Anthony Reyes back in 2005. Nearly pitched a no-hitter in 2006. That was an interleague play against the White Sox, and Jim told me, I believe it was in the 8th inning with 2 outs. Just smoked a home run.
Bunch of strikeouts in that game, too. A promising career ahead of him.
Yes.
Fortunately, a lot of injuries.
Won Game 1 of the World Series. Further that list, P.J. Walters, no decision. Adam Ottavino is on that list. Danny Herron and Jason Simon-Tachi. Reyes right now, last check, trying to come back from arm surgery. And he's a guy that they talk about, you know, they really wanted him to sink the ball. A lot of times he lived up in the zone.
Yeah, he liked to pitch up. He was one of those kind of 4-seam fastball guys. They wanted him to be a 2-seam guy. Really, changeup to me was still his best pitch.
Right center, the catch made off the bat of Molina.
Kind of a good kid, but he almost got the reputation at one point of being hard-headed because he didn't want to make that change. And it's really a fine line in this game. Colby Rasmus dealt with a little bit of that his rookie season. He's done things a certain way his whole year. He's played the game. He's had a certain approach, and it's gotten him to the big leagues. And first-round draft choice, outstanding talent. And you have minor league coaches all the time tell you, as you go up the ladder, don't let them change you. That's what they tell you. So you get to the big leagues and you hear that voice in your head saying, don't let them change you. And then the first day somebody says, you know, maybe you ought to try this. And it's a really tough place for a kid to be. But I think Colby's gotten all the way through that.
A couple of hops to short. Colby with an RBI triple tonight that scored 2. A 1-2-3 inning. Sanchez starting to get locked in. brought to you by Jack in the Box, where right now you can get the new bourbon barbecue steak grilled sandwich at participating restaurants. And by Kia. Sixth inning rolls in, the Major League debut of Lance Lynn. He's allowed one hit thus far. Aubrey Huff, two-run homer that put San Francisco on the board.
If you're Dave Duncan and Tony La Russa, you've got more than you could ask for out of Lance Lynn. And everything else from here is gravy. Talked
Pitch
about
count
him
for Lynn, Ricky, very quickly, only at 57.
Yeah, and you talked about him being on 3 days rest, however, so would guess that they're not going to let him get to 100, but he's going to get more innings probably than you would have thought because of the low pitch count. There's the changeup that he's used pretty effectively here. And you know, Dave Duncan, frankly, is still learning Lance Lynn. He sees him in spring training, and Dave picks things up pretty quickly, obviously, with all his years of doing this. But he wants to find out how to keep him in his right delivery.
That drops in between Rasmus and Craig.
Oh, my.
Wow. Colby was looking at Craig, but that ball's got to be caught.
Yeah, that ball was up there a very, very long time, and you can see the agitation of Tony La Russa. Talking about a 3-2 game in the sixth inning. You got to go get it. Somebody, go get it. Colby actually pulls up right about now, and the ball drops in the warning track, and long way to run for both of them, but that ball absolutely has to be caught.
Now the top of the lineup in Andres Torres. We got a tie game. You can't fault Lance Lynn right now. This potential double play ball that was botched, then turned into a two-run homer, and Sanchez, that fly ball very easily and probably should have been caught. And now it's 3-3.
As we've said so many times, defense matters. You could very easily have a 3-0 game, and Lance Lynn's got to find a way to just not let this get any worse. Get out of the rest of the inning. He's only given up 3 hits. Such a shame, though. Guy pitching in his major league debut is certainly deserved better than what he's gotten so far.
They've got a lefty throwing in the bullpen right now. Looks like Trevor Miller. He's getting ready for Huff. Sherholtz, back-to-back lefties. 4 and 5 spot in this lineup. Tejada has been hit by a pitch and struck out back in the first. One final in baseball, the Mets over Pittsburgh. The score of 9-8. That was awfully close.
Showing some quickness. Very fast move, and bang bang play at the bag. What makes that pickoff move so important, Dan, is you can't have a long arm action for a right-hander. It has to be a short, quick throw, more like a catcher's throw to second. There it is, snap throw. If you bring the arm way back like your normal pitching delivery, you're losing precious seconds. George Kissel used to say, take the ball out of your glove, listen to the ball, just get it up to your ear, which I thought was a good little teaching technique to make that snap throw work. Still puzzled over that ball in left center field. How about you?
Yeah, it's taken the air out of the stadium too.
Oh, it really has. That's one thing defense, bad defense, will do for a team and for a crowd.
.1-0 pitch to Tejada. High chopper. No play off the glove of Terrio. Torres on his way to third. And with that, Tejada moves up to second. And again, that's another play you could say, Alan Craig, put that in your back pocket. Or throw it into second.
Yeah, he needs to throw that ball. He needs to recognize he's got no chance of throwing out the runner Torres at third. So don't let Tejada get into scoring position too. Again, that ball just finds a hole. Everybody's diving. But when Craig comes up, he knows he's got no chance of an off-balance throw working there. So get the ball into second. Flannery telling Torres to slide, but allowing Tejada to go from first to second. There's a new sabermetric stat, not so new, but fairly popular in that world, in the baseball world, called BABIP, which is batting average with balls in play, which supposedly measures luck. I'm not sure it really measures that. I think there are times where it just measures poor defense.
Terrio deep throw makes the play.
Or maybe how hard somebody actually hits a ball in play. But if you're a BABIP guy, hasn't been a good inning for Lance Lynn.
So Torres scores, and the Giants have the lead. Lance Lynn has deserved a much better fate than what he will leave this ball game with, trailing by the score of 4-3.
If Tejada's on first base instead of second there. A lot of ifs in this inning, Dan. Lynn, very similar, very few swings and misses of the 15 balls in play. Unfortunately, the Cardinals not able to catch a couple of those, so Lance Lynn has to give way to Trevor Miller.
So one out, runner at second base. The batter is Aubrey Huff. Inside on Huff. That'll get your attention.
These are a couple of plays that were not made. Brian Terrio was a tough shot, but double play not made turns into a couple run. This fly ball by the pitcher inexplicably drops into the warning track, and the floodgates opened up here for the Giants, and they have taken the lead 4-3. Lance Lynn has deserved a better fate, and our call to the bullpen is Trevor Miller.
That's brought to you by Chevy. 1 ball, 1 strike. Outfield is straight away. It's pulled foul.
round of applause for Lance Lynn as he exits the game. Cardinal fans recognizing that it was an outstanding performance in his major league debut. The numbers should be better. Just 4 hits in 5+ innings.
The 1-2 pitch. Inside, 2 balls, 2 strikes. Numbers on the lefty this year.
You know, he can really be a key to this Cardinal bullpen, Dan, over the next couple of months. If he is able to regain his form, the numbers actually aren't that bad. Look at earned run average, but too many first batter faced, not retiring. He's not dominating the lefties like we know he can. And a lot of it is the command of his fastball. We've seen 3 fastballs from Trevor Miller. All 3 of them have missed the zone by a foot. So it's hard to throw a fastball here.
Reaches for it. Little flare in the right. Jay can't come up with it. Drops in for a hit. Run will score. Tell you what, Tim Flannery is heading down the line. And at some point, he's going to run into a pitcher that's trying to back up the play. Trevor Miller recognized that ball was going to get down. We're talking about the third base coach, and we mentioned this last night. But he is near the circle of the dirt trying to wave at a runner. Trevor Miller was trying to go back up the play.
Great effort by John Jay. We've seen him do that. And there's the slider, 3-2 pitch. And here's a look at Tim Flannery. He's going to wave Tejada, and he's going to hop in his back pocket. Trevor Miller has to kind of wait for them both to get through, and the ball might hit him too.
Yeah. Well, he's lucky that a runner doesn't slip and slide into him. You know, he's going full speed trying to make that turn, and Flannery's right in the way.
He's a little amped up, isn't he?
A little much.
Too much coffee.
It's inside. It's now a 5-3 San Francisco lead. Giants trying to make it 3 of 4. The Cardinals trying to earn a split. 1 out, runner at first. A count of 1 ball, no strikes. Shearholtz is 0 for 2. He's flied out to right, also grounded out to third.
And it wasn't a bad pitch by Trevor Miller, but he still doesn't get his man.
So Lance Lynn, 5 1/3, 4 hits, strikes out 5. Total of 64 pitches tonight. 42 are strikes. 5 earned runs. That's a bit misleading. The home run following the missed opportunity for the double play. The ball that dropped in. Colby under it. Makes the catch. Let's take a look at our what's on tap as the Cubbies are making their way to St. Louis. Dempster and Garcia tomorrow. Brian Dempster 4-4. Jaime Garcia 5-1. We talked about he's coming off that tough outing in Colorado on Saturday. Jaime making his 12th start of the year. 2nd this year against Chicago. Two outs, runner at first. Cody Ross in the hole here, 0-1. Ross twice struck out against Lance Lynn.
What's also misleading about this game, Dan, not only the numbers of Lance Lynn, but if you look at the runs, hits, and errors in this game, Cardinals 3 runs, 4 hits, no errors. I'm not sure that tells the story.
That's hit down the left field line. Trouble if it's fair, and that ball is. It hops over the wall. It's a ground rule double, and the Cardinals will catch a break. Huff will have to go back to third. That stays in play. Might have been able to score. And now you have runners at second and third with 2 down.
A little bit tougher assignment for Trevor Miller, facing a right-handed batter. Ross hooks it into the corner. And as you mentioned, the Cardinals get a break. Now Miller with a chance for another left-hander, Brandon Crawford, who Red Schoendienst was talking about before the game in glowing terms. Really likes him as a player. And Red ought to know.
Oh, yeah. Big at bat right here. Base hit can make it a 4-run lead. One ball, one strike. Very good with runners in scoring position so far. Recently called up.
Got a slightly open stance, little short swing, keeps his hands low. Not a lot of movement.
In the air out to left. Allen Craig makes the catch. Giants pick up 3. They lead it by 2. Question, Donald in Florissant. Why do managers still wear uniforms?
It's a very good question. My best answer to this is baseball is a traditional sport, and whatever we did 90 years ago, we're going to keep doing. We're not going to change.
So that's your answer.
That's not a very good answer, but it's my best answer. Basketball doesn't. Football, you can't imagine a football guy in pads, John Madden in pads. Back in the day, Steve Spagnuolo, a little more contemporary. Can't imagine it.
No.
Phil Jackson in one of those Laker uniforms. No longer Phil Jackson, who's retiring again.
By the way, Greg Aiello, NFL's VP of Communications, at the game. Billy Devaney is here along with Kevin Demoff of the Rams.
Great.
Apparently they're hosting about 12 members of the national media that are in town for the labor hearing at the 8th Circuit Court. I want to see football. I think everybody wants to see football.
We all do.
The 1-2 pitch. 2-2. I also want to see a situation, though, that ownership group feels is viable to stay in cities. Is that asking for too much?
I think you sound like one of the attorneys for the owners. At this
I don't
point.
take sides on any of that stuff.
No, I mean, no, I think that's right. You're looking for balance. You're looking for something that will produce a model that is workable and very complex, obviously.
Complex, but still, if you have the billions of dollars that they're trying to figure out how to split up in this economy.
And it's such
let's grow up.
And it's such a popular sport, too. Baseball, of course, is
figure it out.
America's pastime, and we keep saying that about the game of baseball, but football is so popular. And you ask the average baseball player, and they've got a team and a favorite player, and they love football season, and they get into their fantasy leagues, and they have great respect for guys that play at that level.
Walk to Green. Let's see, Bruce Bochy. These managers.
So it's 5-3.
Yeah, these guys are. He's saying, wait a minute. Now we just got the lead, and he walked in, and he's walked now.
Bruce Bochy right now wishes he was not in a uniform, in a coat and a tie, and not able to go out onto the field and actually talk to his players. It's Dave Righetti right now. But I would say a very measured response right now from Righetti. But what he wants to say is, are you kidding me? It's 5-3. We just got 3 runs in the top of this inning. You have the second highest strikeout per 9-inning ratio in the last 5 years of anybody in baseball, behind Tim Lincecum. Number 2, last 5 years, Jonathan Sanchez. But I don't care about those strikeouts right now. Don't walk anybody.
What will June produce? So Cruz steps in. 5-3 in favor of San Francisco.
Wait for a manager someday to be so disgusted with his pitcher, like let's say he walks this guy, that they go to take him out and he doesn't even go out to the mound. He just says, hey, drop the ball there, you come in. I'm not even going to go out and talk to you.
Well, when they used to leave the field, they'd leave their glove. All the position players.
I'm told it was 1953 was the last year they did that.
Peter Kozma is on deck. Good jump by Green. Throw down to second base, not in time. He had a great jump.
He stole that off of Sanchez, no doubt. Went on first movement. Saw something different in his motion. Knew he was going home. Knows already. There he goes.
Strike at the knees.
The other right-handed bat option off the Cardinal bench would be the switch hitter Lance Berkman, who you would prefer to bat left-handed. But you wonder if it's an RBI situation, would you prefer Kozma or a right-handed Lance Berkman?
Jammed him, and it's popped up. Puff had to avoid the runner and makes the play. You could hear him calling for that. Called off Whiteside to make the catch. If you have a car and love baseball, then don't miss discounted Cardinals tickets from Phillips 66 gas when you fill up with 10 gallons or more. For complete details, stop by your local station or visit Cardinals.com/Phillips 66.
Bruce Bochy has his uniform on. He's on his way to the mound.
Garcia, the right-hander, coming in. From baseball at 40 years of age. Schnooks, this date in baseball history. Skip Schumacher has moved to the on-deck circle.
Santiago Garcia, the right-hander, takes over for the Giants. Giants have a very good bullpen, but the Cardinals have been able to put some runs across. And I thought they might even do it against Brian Wilson last night. So there's not a lot of quit in this Cardinal team. There's a run you need to pick up out on second base, and that's Tyler Green, who walked and stole second. And the relievers just keep getting better. When you go 6, 7, 8, 9 innings for the Giants, they get progressively better.
Big gap in right center for Schumacher. He'll take it right up the middle. Here comes Green. No, they're going to hold him up. Runners at first and third with one out. Ball was smoked by Skip Schumacher.
And with the speed of Tyler Green, you'd think he could score from second base, but how about the way the center fielder Torres charges this ball? This ball is a rope, and he just flies to get that ball. Not a great throw, but by the time he had that ball, Tyler Green was barely at third base. So I think Jose Oquendo did the right thing. And again, Skip Schumacher hit that ball so hard he may have lost an RBI because of it.
And Torres, give him credit, he got that on one hop.
Oh, and he was I mean, he charged that ball as hard as an outfielder can charge a ball. I love seeing that.
The outfield here for Terrio, very, very shallow. Now, we normally see outfields play him shallow, but this might be the most shallow we've seen any outfield play against Ryan Terrio.
Great at bat by Schumacher.
Extended his hitting streak as Terrio tonight. That ball stays in front. Schumacher thought about advancing to second base, but stays put. 1-0 the count. Terrio. A single back in the second inning. Uh-oh. Double play ball. 6-4-3 on the double play. Threat is through. We head to the 7th. 5-3. Clato will make his major league debut. We've seen some of those this year. How about April 13th at Arizona? Eduardo Sanchez, nasty in 5 strikeouts, 2 innings of work. Pete Cosmo, last homestand, RBI double in his major league debut, first at bat. And also Tony Cruz, most recent road trip, went 3 for 5 behind the plate. Michael Clato, out of the Dominican Republic, takes over. Hard thrower picked up in the Brendan Ryan deal.
And nice to have a guy just 22 years of age in a big league debut, throwing hard. Traded for Brendan Ryan, as you said. And excited to get a chance to see what he has for us.
Our gun had 98, Stadium gun 97. Now, you're getting a good example of something that the Cardinals have talked about with him and are trying to improve upon. Watch his front shoulder, the left shoulder. They say that many times flies open, which then elevates the ball up and in on righties, or a lack of control.
That's 98 at the knees. They've mentioned that he has hit 100 this year.
So, Ricky, maybe you can explain what that does. If you open up that left shoulder.
If you open up the left shoulder, if you get kind of wide with your arms and you get that front shoulder flies open, your arm will drop and you'll push the ball a little bit. Most of the time the ball will be up in the zone because you're not able to throw downhill enough. You've got to pull that front arm in towards you, stay on top, drive to the plate just like that.
Yep.
And you could see the difference first pitch, and you could see it in his follow through where he kind of spun around and was off balance. It's because his front arm flew open and the whole body came off balance.
He said, what should we watch for with Clato? He said, watch his excitement, because when he gets excited, he will fly open and revert to old habits.
So you're a 22-year-old in the big leagues. How do you not be excited? There's the delivery. That pitch was pretty good, pretty close. Didn't fly open quite so much on that 3-2 delivery.
The other thing they talked about, and this is Pat Burrell, is that the pro scout that recommended making the trade when they looked at Seattle with Brendan Ryan, they said that Clato has an issue with deception. That many times that front shoulder, when it opens up, it also exposes the hand and the arm.
That's another thing that happens. The pitch gets flatter. You don't have the same kind of movement and zip on the fastball. Forget miles per hour. You might lose some of that too. But you're showing the ball to the batter for a longer period of time instead of staying closed. I was always taught, think about it this way, if the top of your body spins horizontally, that means you're flying open. You should almost be more vertical. Your back shoulder replaces your front shoulder from the top instead of top spinning. If your top half of your body spins, you're probably dropping your arm, probably flying open.
1 ball, 1 strike here on Pat Burrell.
There's a slider, a first look at that. To be young and have an 85-mile-an-hour slider.
Tony La Russa is saying today that he and Dave Duncan have had conversations about the minor leagues. He said in his 16 years here, this is the best collection of young arms that the Cardinals have had. That includes Clato and Shelby Miller, Martinez, who pitched here last week in that minor league game. Also a couple others. Gast is a guy that comes to mind. They really like the youth and the strength, the arms in the minor leagues. 3-2.
You talked about him being a maximum effort guy. That's really what they said about him, and we're seeing exactly that now. Every pitch is just, I'm going to throw it as hard as I can.
And it's back-to-back walks. You wonder if that'll get the bullpen up and throwing, as the weight of the world is on the shoulders now of Clato.
How great it is to have a catcher like Yadier Molina come out. First of all, you know there's Spanish going on there, which is certainly going to be helpful to a young kid from the Dominican Republic. Feel a little bit more comfortable. Got a veteran guy, you know he knows what he's doing behind the plate. Don't feel quite so alone.
Andres Torres with an RBI single and an RBI in the first game, so 5 in this series.
Now he's getting squeezed a little bit.
Yes, he is.
Very nice pitch right there.
Two and 0. Now you're Tony La Russa. He also feels some pressure in this spot too. You don't want to leave a young guy out there just to get buried, but nobody is up and throwing in the Cardinal bullpen. Tony's saying, let's get a double play and a strikeout and get out of this.
And you've got your young pitcher in a game that's a 2-run game too.
2-0 pitch, ground ball, and a fair ball. It stayed fair. A run will score. Burrell is on his way to third. It's a double for Andres Torres. It didn't seem that was going to stay fair or have any chance to do so, but it did. So Clato has walked 2 and allowed a double.
And the walks hurt him. Ball's beat into the ground. Looks like it goes right over first base. And it's past Albert before he has a chance to dive for it. I'm not sure if Albert thought that was going to be a fair ball.
Infield is drawn in. Runners at second and third. Miguel Tejada fouled back into the upper deck. Sure, Clato followed major league players from the Dominican Republic, and a lot of players from that area look up to Albert Pujols and the guy at the plate. Here's an 0-1 pitch. Tejada's already been hit on the helmet, just grazed on the helmet by Lance Lynn earlier in the ballgame. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Great promise for Michael Clato, but you're seeing the difference between a polished big leaguer and a guy who's still learning how to do this, and this is the kind of performance you see a lot in the minor leagues. Trying to calm himself, but it's not that easy.
A 2-1 pitch. 2-2. Tejada hitting just .213 on the year. He struck out, hit by a pitch, and a single back in the 6th inning.
First major league strikeout for Lance Lynn was Miguel Tejada. Will he be victim number 1 for Michael Clato?
Ground ball too short. That's Green. Looks back the runner at third and gets the out. So 1 away. Runners at second and third for Freddie Sanchez, who's grounded out to third, hit into a fielder's choice, and then came around to score in the 4th, and the home run by Huff, and also picked up a ground out RBI, now with 15 this year. First pitch popped up into the upper deck again.
Dave Duncan and Derek Lilliquist might be able to teach Clato how to pitch, but you can't teach somebody how to throw 99. They either do or they don't. So you've got a raw talent that you're excited about, and you're just going to have to work with.
We got that first out. Now relax a little bit. The 0-1 pitch. Just about every pitch, Rick, has been consistently 97, 98. That one at 99.
Cardinal fans might think that a little bit of what we saw from Jason Mock when he first came up.
One pitch.
Ooh. Tell you, when it's 99 and it's at your front knee, might not want to dig in there.
Not
Freddie.
real comfortable.
No. Going to have a hard time protecting the outside of the plate here.
And again, the infield is drawn in. Here's a 2-1 pitch. Hammered out to deep left field. At the track, it's at the wall, and this ball is gone. 3-run homer for Freddie Sanchez. And Clato is met rudely here in the major leagues. It's now 9-3 San Francisco.
Doesn't matter how hard you throw, big leaguers can turn it around. And that's exactly what Freddie Sanchez does. He doesn't get that pitch away. It's middle in. A learning experience tonight for Michael Clato.
And Huff takes a strike. He's had a big night. 3 RBIs, pair of hits, 2-run homer to get them on the board. Cardinals will have Jay, Pujols, and Craig coming up. 362 feet distance of that home run. Nobody getting loose in the Cardinal bullpen.
What you try to figure out with a pitcher is, what is he trying to do? I don't know yet. Watching him pitch, I don't see an idea. I don't see a pattern. I don't see a process. I just see a guy throwing the ball as hard as he can.
That's hammered out to deep right, and it's back-to-back home runs. Now here comes Tony La Russa. Again, there is nobody getting loose in the Cardinal bullpen. And I'll say it again, Rick. It's a situation. If you're Tony La Russa, you're saying, hey, I don't want to see this guy get buried and lose extreme confidence in coming up here and having this kind of inning, which he has given up 5 runs. He's recorded 1 out, given up 2 home runs. And that's something that, if you're Dave Duncan and Tony La Russa, you've got to be a little bit concerned about.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think not protecting a guy who may have a delicate psyche is a dangerous business.
Yeah. And we don't know that yet.
We don't know that. They may know Clato better than we do. He may be a guy that doesn't care about anything and not going to phase him, and that may be part of his makeup, and I'm sure that's part of the scouting report on him. But still, you are dealing with some rough business when you let a guy stay and give up a couple of home runs back to back, 3 extra base hits, a couple of walks, and as you mentioned, still he just has 1 out.
And he gets his first major league strikeout. Next time you want to catch a Cardinals game, head to StubHub. You'll find the seats you want and the freedom to choose where you'd like to sit. And StubHub is the official fan-to-fan ticket marketplace of the St. Louis Cardinals.
You know, Dan, there's really 2 schools of thought on that too. Is somebody's struggling and you take them out of that. Now you basically said, we're going to condition you not to be able to get out of your own things because we don't trust you. And we believe in you enough to say we're going to let you try to get out of this and right the ship a little bit, at least get some outs and move on. And so it really depends on what you know about the makeup of the pitcher, which way you go. And in this case, I don't think the Cardinals want to waste another pitcher. So pragmatism really comes into play.
Well, and the other thing too is, Rick, he's been conditioned as a starter, so if you want to bring him out next inning, you could. Check swing, and he went strikeout. And Clato gets 2 strikeouts in his debut, but gives up 5 runs. And the Giants now with a 10-3 lead, and this guy was, well, he was Clato at one point, that hard-throwing right-hander.
He was, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He still throws pretty hard.
Yeah, he still does. Not quite as hard as he used to, but he had just a nasty fastball, and Talked about the Cardinals' good young arms and throwing hard, but the Giants have some hard throwers of their own. Brian Wilson at the end, but also Guillermo Mota. Sergio Romo rushes it up there, but Michael Clato, a little learning experience tonight here at Busch Stadium.
Nobody throwing for the Cardinals in the bullpen, so back-to-back strikeouts again. Starter at Double-A in the minor leagues. And so there's no reason to think that he could not go back out there for another inning or two. You save the bullpen here.
Well, I think he's going to do it. And again, you go out there and have a couple of good innings after this, and then maybe you say, well, the big league debut wasn't so bad, but, you know, it's a big if, too. He's going to have to find a way to just get ahead of hitters and not try to throw every ball as hard as you can.
There's John Jay with Pujols on deck. And then we'll see the spot occupied by Alan Craig. 10-3 San Francisco.
I'd love to know exactly what Tony La Russa said to Michael Clato when he went out to talk to him.
Aaron Rowan is in left field. I would assume, Rick, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one is settle down. Two would be you're staying out here. You know, we need you, and take this and learn from it, regroup.
I think there's a good chance that's what he said.
Opposite field, well hit. With a catch made by Aaron Rowan.
And again, I was going to say, again, Tony La Russa probably saying that in Spanish to Michael Clato, which, you know, I don't want to overplay that, but I think that means a lot to a young pitcher that's just trying to get acclimated to being in the United States, #1, but to being in the big leagues, #2. It's a lot to ask.
Here is Albert Pujols. One of the things the Cardinals are doing, and many teams are doing this as well, that when Dominican players, Latin players, come over to the big leagues or just to professional baseball, and the Cardinals are doing this now, they go to the field, they'll play, they'll practice, they'll play a game that night depending on what level they're at, but then they go take English classes, and that's, they say, sometimes half the battle as Pujols picks up the base hit. American customs, food, and the language.
I went in to meet Javier Lopez in the Giants clubhouse yesterday, and I'd never met him before. I was expecting to habla with him a little bit, but I'm not sure he speaks any Spanish. He was born in Puerto Rico but grew up in Northern Virginia, so he's as kind of English speaking as it gets. So, but I looked over to the table and there were two Latin players getting an English lesson, and there was a lady sitting in between them teaching them different words and sentence structure, and I'd never seen that in the clubhouse before. So that's even at the big league level, right? It's happening.
Here is Alan Craig. Craig's had a really good series. Been on base twice tonight, a walk and a double. Had a really nice note for all of us at FSN from Gerald Hildebrand. Never misses a game. And wants to wish his buddy, Edward Swears, a happy 87th birthday. He said Edward, who is in Lewisburg, Kentucky, never misses a game as well. So happy birthday to Edward. Big Cardinal fan.
How many bloops and blasts do we need here, Dan?
A lot. A lot. When you think about the game last night and why you look at it from the Giants' perspective, how big that game was, going against a guy that was 10 for 10 in saves, down to your final out, and a walk extends the game, and then you wind up winning the game in extra innings, and the momentum that carries over to tonight to an extent.
It really does. It's a game that at one point you'd say was a lock for the Giants because they had Lincecum in the lead. Then you get ahead of Lincecum and you've got Salas in a lead. We have seen some exciting games. There's no doubt about that.
We have seen the teams in the West, and judging after the first 2 months, and it's still early as teams develop, but the Giants seem like they would be really tough to beat because of their pitching and the fact that they sell out every game at home, the momentum they have coming off a world championship. I thought it'd be Colorado, but now seeing them pitch, you'd think San Francisco maybe.
Well, I thought it would be Colorado, and then when Posey got hurt for the Giants, then I really thought it would be Colorado. But then when we saw Colorado, I'm not so sure.
Base hit, Descalso into right. And the bases will be loaded.
I think the West is going to be a toss-up. The Dodgers have some good players. Prominent pitcher in Kershaw. Good closer in Broxton. Ethier, Kemp. Good position players. They've got kind of a little bit of everything, too. And Arizona, of course, have been the surprise team. That pitch right down central. And there's 3 bloops. Now a blast, not really bloops. But a home run would make this game interesting. Colby was trying to do just that.
Rasmus with a triple that scored 2. Go back to the ball that dropped between he and Craig, and that is a huge play in this game. Popped up. Will it get out of play? It does. Ramirez getting loose. Right-hander in the pen for San Francisco.
So the Cardinals not able to make a couple of plays leads to some giant runs. Torres charges a ball and keeps Tyler Green from scoring from second base on a base hit. No errors involved in any of what I just said, but it's a difference of 3 or 4 runs.
Got a piece of it. 0-2 the count, 1 out.
The box score only tells you so much about the game that you either saw or didn't see. And we all love to check the box scores, Dan, find out what our favorite players did, pitcher's line, and you kind of think you know what happened. But you don't really know the whole story unless you watch every play.
Foul back again.
Pujols, Craig, and Descalso.
The 0-2. Hammered out to deep right. Grand slam. Colby Rasmus. All of a sudden, we have a game again.
Great at bat by Rasmus. He tried to throw the ball off the plate inside, didn't get it in, and Colby Rasmus has made this a game.
What a night for Colby. Second career grand slam to go along now with a triple as well.
6 RBI. Nice catch. He had the rally cap on. And he also got a kiss.
Up the middle, and somehow Mota makes the catch. Rasmus's last 7 hits, 2 singles, 3 triples, and 2 home runs.
How's he catch this ball? Watch out. Get your head out of the way. Oh, my. And he posed. His teammates will tell him later, you got a good jump on that ball.
Way to charge it.
That's right. Oh, that's the other thing, Mills. That's exactly right. And he may or may not think that's funny.
He's been around long enough.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to.
Well,
but it's not going to stop him from saying it. I guarantee you.
So here is Cruz. Now, a question for you here, Ricky. You're back to within 3 runs. Would you think about taking Clato out?
Yeah, I would.
You've got a game again.
I would. You just have to beat him by 3 in a 2-inning game. Could happen.
If you're San Francisco, you're thinking, boy, we thought we had the night off for Brian Wilson. That may change.
You've got some options, I think. The Cardinals have options. They used a lot of pitchers yesterday. I think Jason Mott would be a guy, would be a good choice for this game. Batista pitched an inning and a third last night. Sanchez and Salas an inning each. Already used Trevor Miller. Got the left-hander Talent. I think would be a good choice for the 8th.
Cruz strikes out. Charge, though, here at the ballpark thanks to Colby Rasmus. His grand slam measured at 387 feet. 6 RBIs tonight. Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. By Bank of America, where ATM deposits are as easy as an infield fly. No deposit slip, no envelope. With Bank of America, member FDIC. And by AT&T. Colby Rasmus, big night at the plate. 6 RBIs. Brandon Crawford will lead it off.
And we'll see if Michael Clato can settle down and have a nice quick inning. Gets a strike there at the knees at 96. Didn't really seem to overthrow that pitch, Dan. Seemed a little bit more under control.
Final 2 he got out with strikeouts. After he gave up the 5 runs, Cardinals have come back with 4. one swing of the bat.
It's like an off-speed pitch at 91.
The 1-2 pitch hit the other way, but the catch is made. Eli Whiteside will be the hitter.
We talked about the great run support that Jonathan Sanchez has had in his games against the Cardinals. 2-0 in his career. Over 6 runs his team scored for him in those games. Another good offensive output, but Jonathan Sanchez, with 6 walks and 5 innings with a big lead, does not deserve to win this game. He might win it, but he doesn't deserve it.
And Rick, this is not to make excuses. He gave up 2 home runs last inning, talking about Clato.
Right.
But it seemed like the first couple of batters could have gone the other way with some borderline pitches.
Agreed.
If that happens, you never know about the complexion of the inning. And again, not making excuses, but you get that first or second out, that's a totally different inning.
He didn't get some breaks, then made bad pitches to make it worse. But if he gets those breaks, maybe he gets some confidence. Maybe he starts to feel comfortable quicker. Looks like he seems a little more comfortable in this inning. Then maybe the result is different.
0-2 pitch. Slider a little bit low.
The fragile,
84.
yeah, the fragile psyche, Dan, of a young player. Really, any sport.
I'm sure everything now is probably slowed down a little bit for him. Can relax. Fly ball again out to left. 2 outs. Still throwing hard.
I would bet somebody's going to have to tell him what happened in that first inning. I mean, seriously.
You're probably right.
It's that bad. It's like, hey, I know it wasn't good. I remember that much. But the speed that you're talking about, the game just was flying past him. And he had, I mean, everything he could do just to try to keep up with what was going on.
Started with a pair of walks back to back. Then a double. Ground out, got his first out. 3-run homer by Freddie Sanchez. Right after that, Huff home run. And before Huff could get to the plate, Tony La Russa was just about to the mound and calmed him down, and he struck out the next 2. Got out of the inning. This inning, line out and a fly out.
So that's what happened. And if he doesn't know, I'm going to send him to you.
He'll remember. He's a big guy. I don't want to mess with him.
Yeah, that's right.
1 ball and 2 strikes.
He's using his off-speed pitches better in this inning, too.
And they may have very well, Rick, just been sitting on that fastball knowing here's a debut, he's rearing back, and here we go.
Well, when you're behind, too, in the count, 2-1, 3-1, you're going to throw the fastball.
Ooh, good pitch.
See if this is a strike. Yep. There's the break you're talking about. Now what does he do? Doesn't get the break. It's strike 3. Should have been strike 3. Now what happens? Comes back with a good fastball, 98.
$34,104 here tonight. That ball in the dirt. The 3-2 pitch. Slider got him. 3 strikeouts and a 1-2-3 inning for Clato. written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. Jeremy Affeldt, we saw him earlier in this series. Was very good. Second time up for Skip Schumacher. First time up was a base hit.
Inning where the Cardinals had a walk and a base hit, a stolen base, could have picked up a run, and it would have been even closer, but the grand slam by Rasmus has made this a very interesting game, and the Cardinals have a pretty big bullet on their bench in Lance Berkman. That's not the bullet I was thinking of.
Now, Rick, you are down to 6 outs. You've got a pitcher on deck, and you still have position players on the bench.
Position player on the bench, Lance Berkman.
Pretty good one. But you're running out of time, is my point.
I'm with you. I mean, I'm not sure what you're saving Lance Berkman for, unless he's just not able to hit for a reason we're not aware of.
Or Tony's saying we're going to wait until that right spot comes up. If. That's a big if it happens.
But once you go around and get past the pitcher, now you've got guys you're not going to hit for anyway. You've got John Jay, Pujols, Craig, Descalzo, Rasmus. You're not going to pinch hit for them anyway.
2-2, a ground ball right side. Affeldt is there. And there's one away. Schumacher 1 for 2 on the night. So Westbrook will bat for Clato.
Remember that thing we were talking about earlier, that Tony, as a Hall of Fame manager, can do some things that we all may scratch our heads about and say, well, you know what, he's a Hall of Famer and has his reasons. He's going to have a bunch of reasons why he's doing this. But if he's Edwin Rodriguez doing that, I'm just not sure that he would get the same kind of rope. Brian Talent, the left-hander, take over in the 9th. And I'm still working on that one.
Here's Jay.
I'm still thinking, Dan. How about you? Where'd you stop?
Well, as you said, one of the things you're thinking about is Berkman even available? And we just don't know that.
Yeah, that is certainly possible. Of course, Berkman's better from the left side than the right side, but Berkman's better from the right side than Jake Westbrook will ever be from the right side. No offense, Jake Westbrook. 8th inning, you're down to your last 5 outs, as you say.
And a base hit.
Pretty good at bat against a left-hander for John Jay.
So here is Pujols. One swing of the bat, and he could pull the Cardinals within 1.
I'm sure the last thing that Tony would want to do would be to have Jake Westbrook bat in the 9th inning with bases loaded. game on the line.
Right.
And maybe he's guarding against that, which could happen if you work all the way through the lineup again.
Ground ball stabbed at by Tejada. That sends us to the 9th inning. 10-7 in favor of San Francisco.
Lumiere Place, a hard luck debut for Lance Lynn. Colby has a monster night, and we'll have Tony TV as well. All that coming up. Brian Talent on to pitch for the Cards as we go back to the booth. And Dan and Rick, guys.
Thanks, Cat. 10-7 San Francisco. Brian Talent takes over here at top of the 9th inning. The Cardinals with 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th, thanks to Colby Rasmus and his grand slam. Gotten back in this ball game. Talent's going to try to give his team a chance to pull this out in the 9th. And top of the order in Andres Torres.
Mets over Pittsburgh 9-8 tonight. Texas beat Cleveland 7-4. Twins trying to hold on in the bottom of the 9th, 8-2 over Kansas City. That's pulled foul. So we got to see a couple of major league debuts at Busch Stadium here tonight. Lance Lynn, Michael Clato, and Lynn, I think we both agree, fared a much better fate.
I would say he had a B+ effort in his game and a C- result.
Fly ball into left center. Drops in for a hit. Saw Huff take both the rookies deep.
Huff also homered yesterday, and he has that groove swing going. And that's part of beating a club, Dan, is making sure you don't let the guys who are hot beat you. And their batting average all year sometimes not as indicative of what they're doing in the last 10 days. Daryl Porter used to say that. Go over the scouting report and they'd say, I don't care about their numbers. Don't tell me anything about their numbers. What have they done in their last 12 at-bats? And I thought that was a great way to look at the game and who to stay away from and who you feel like you could pitch to.
Pitch to Tejada. Up the middle, off a talent. Schumacher gets it, throws to first, and out.
And I know you want to say for those of you scoring at home.
1, 4, 3.
I think that would have been up the middle had Talent not knocked that down with his leg.
Right now, Tejada hitting into some tough luck.
He's got some bad luck going on. His BABIP isn't very good.
You are a sabermetrics genius.
Don't tell the sabermetric people that.
They're not happy with you?
No. They don't like the fact that I question some of those new statistics. And again, I keep saying new. They're not so new, but they have not become mainstream. Let's put it that way.
Totally mainstream.
But there's a number of those statistics that I do like.
2-0.
Cardinals could really use for Brian Talent and Trevor Miller to both get on a roll. We saw that with Dennis Reyes and Miller as a tandem for a prolonged period a couple of years ago, and it just sets up everything else in your bullpen. All of a sudden, those lefty-righty things make more sense, and they work. Tony La Russa can make all the right moves, but if the results aren't there, if the execution's not there, it looks like you've made a bad move. And you need to have some balance from the left side in your bullpen. You just have to.
A 2-2 pitch to Freddie Sanchez. He had the big 3-run homer. Blocked by Cruz in the dirt. Check swing, and he went. Strikeout.
Nice breaking ball from Talent. Gets a pretty tough hitter in Sanchez. And I would suspect that the Cardinals will be careful with Aubrey Huff here. Even though it's lefty-lefty, you don't want to just kind of give in to him. Got another left-hander on deck in Shearholz. Huff is locked in.
Strike on the outside corner.
First base is open.
Cardinals will have Craig, Descalso, and Rasmus coming up. In the air out to right, near the wall, and it is a home run. Aubrey Huff goes deep again. And for Aubrey Huff, third time he's gone deep in this ballgame. First career 3 home run game.
Rasmus has 6 RBIs. Unfortunately, so does Huff. Ball just sneaks over the wall. Good effort by John Jay, and perhaps the Cardinals should have pitched around Harvey Huff with first base open.
And a fly ball into left center, and Rasmus takes control to make that catch. Four for 5, 6 RBIs, and 3 home runs tonight. First 3 home run games since August of 2004 for the Giants. JT Snow, the last to do it.
At the ballpark here tonight. Not a good showing by the Cardinals.
No. Here's Alan Craig. Cardinals on the verge of losing this series, dropping 3 of 4. Off the glove of Affel, and a base hit for Craig.
Another nice night for Alan Craig. Been on base 4 out of 5 times. Really, the offense hasn't been an issue. The Cardinals have hit enough to win this game. 7 runs, you should win. But defense, and we're not talking about errors, but defense, missed opportunities, and some poor pitching out of the Cardinal bullpen. And you're trailing by 5 in the 9th.
Here's Descalso. 5 for 13 this year against San Francisco. Affel will just go to first. Craig advances, and it brings in Colby Rasmus, and clearly Colby on that last fly ball between he and Alan Craig. He took charge that time.
I think he called it, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
You know, Colby has never been, and it's not in his nature to be a vocal guy. About the only thing he ever says to us is "Hi, Mr. Dan," and "Hi, Mr. Rick."
Right.
He's very, very cordial and just a great guy. I love being around Colby Rasmus. He's just not a fiery guy, but When you're a center fielder, you have to take charge, and he certainly has some room to grow in that area. But how about the offense today? 2-run triple, grand slam home run.
One-0 pitch. Out to right. And caught. Back to second. Alan Craig. That nearly was RBI number 7.
And a great at-bat against a tough left-hander, too. Shearholt's a right fielder. And the Aubrey Huff that we saw play right field early in the season does not catch that ball. Back at his natural position, first base and mashing.
It's probably a comfort level with his defense that carries over to relaxing at the plate.
Sure was relaxed.
3 home runs relaxed. A 2-0 pitch to Green. 3-0. Cruz is on deck.
Cardinals have not played well in this series against the Giants. They've dropped 3 out of 4 games. And they're going to have to find a way to turn the page with the Cubs coming into town.
Cardinals face Dempster tomorrow. Randy Wells on Saturday. Carlos Zambrano on Sunday. That matchup a good one with Chris Carpenter. Garcia going tomorrow night. And Dave Righetti out to visit.
I think Dave Righetti is tired of seeing walks with big leads. Tyler Green walked to lead off an inning in the 6th inning. Walks now with 2 outs in the 9th inning. And if you're Dave Righetti, you're probably close to that boiling point. What's it, 100 degrees Celsius, 212 Fahrenheit?
I liked it when you were talking about the blood pressure of the manager out in San Diego.
Bud Black.
Bud Black.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you were given the exact reading of what was happening. And his face was, you could see the color changing.
I felt kind of bad for
him. On the rise. Terry Collins, you saw some of the highlight shows today. None too pleased with his New York Mets.
Well, when the veins start popping out on the forehead, you know that the anger level is increased. And you just have to let off a little steam.
Makes me think of Tony TV.
Fans feel the same way. Fans get frustrated.
Ground ball deep in the hole. And the Giants win it. They take 3 of 4 here in St. Louis. Win the season series against the Cardinals. Big night for Huff with the 3 home runs. Post-game show is coming up.